In today's video, we're going to show you a solar generator that blows all of the other ones out of the water. It has some really cool features and I'm really excited to show it to you. It's the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus. So for starters, the actual device itself is kind of shaped like a suitcase, and it has a larger wheel in the back so you can kind of pivot it and roll it around, and it has an arm that comes out. That makes this really easy to move around. You can move it around in gravel and things like that. It is a little bit more difficult, but for flat surfaces, this thing rolls around excellently, and you can roll it downstairs really easy if you want to put it in your basement, and it functions very well in that respect. Now, in terms of the specs of this device, it has a massive 7,200 watt power inverter, meaning it can handle a lot more than its competitors that have around the 4,000 watt inverter systems. And you can put a lot of stress on this power station and it will hold up. We're gonna show that to you in more detail, hooking this up to our power inlet box that goes to all of the devices in our home. And we're gonna test some of them out and see how this guy does. Now, speaking of loads, this will handle a 14,400 watt surge of amps. So when something kicks on, like a compressor or a motor, it's going to spike in amps and then it will slowly go back down. This will handle a huge load. It's quite impressive, so I'm really excited to test that portion out as well. Now, you're probably curious on the price of this guy. It is also priced very competitively when it comes to this competition that it has with the EcoFlow, the Blue Eddy, things of that nature. It comes in at $2,999. This will go on sale and off sale, like for Black Friday, you could probably get it for a little bit cheaper, but that's right around the same price that these other power stations that are similar, but this one actually has an advantage in quite a few different ways. The first advantage that I want to talk about is this can control 240 and 120 volt simultaneously. So a lot of these systems will not do that, but this will allow you to have both of those things running at the same time. Now, the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus is a 5,040 watt hour power station, which is larger than its competitors like the EcoFlow Delta Pro 3, which is 4,096 watt hours, and the Anker 3800 Plus, which is 3,840 watt hours. Now, in terms of where everything is located, so we have our AC outlets here right on the front. We have a nice display there. We're currently just charging this up to see how quickly it'll charge up. We have two USB-Cs and two USB-As there. Here on the right side, we see our charging port. That's for our 110 volt charger, which we're charging up right now. Because this has such a high voltage input here and wattage input on our solar, there's a little disconnect right here, so you can turn it on and off. Now, the high side right here, these have a standard solar connector. These will do 450 volts max and 4,000 watts. The low side will do 60 volts and 1,200 watts max. We're gonna plug in our solar panels that came with this Jackery to see how much input we can get. It's full sunlight today, so I'm excited to test that out. And then over here on the right side, we have our resets. We have our 50 amp outlet for 240 volts. And this is our standard power inlet box configuration. So this is going to go from our power inlet box straight to the generator, and that's going to feed our whole home with power. And then right up here we have an expansion port if we want to put additional batteries on this system. So that pretty much goes over all of the buttons and outlets and all of that. Let's go ahead and get our solar panel set up and see how many watts we can get. And then we're gonna plug this into our power inlet box and test out some different circuits on our home. All right, so these are the Jackery 500 watt panels. Each of these, I believe, is about 80 something watts, and they all connect with these little brackets. And this will all collapse and go into a nice little carrying case. I noticed that the cable for this is also really nice quality. It's really soft. And each of these just clips into the next one. And these are bifacial. So that's the reason why they look the way they do. They don't lay flat on purpose because sunlight will actually go inside and hit the backside. So that's how it's designed. And then they fold up nice and flat. So we're gonna go ahead and get this plugged into our Jackery and see how many watts we're getting. All right, so we have our panels laid out over there and plugged in, and we're getting about 300 watts of energy. Now this says it will charge in about 8 hours based off of this sunlight, which all in all is not terribly bad. So we have two of these. We could plug them in sequence and get this up to closer to 600 watts and probably charge this up in 4 hours. So And again, this is very temporary, so it's kind of nice. You don't have to get a permanent solar system on your house, and you can still have this as a backup for less than $3,000. All right, so now we're gonna show this to you in action with our power station here. And what we're gonna do is plug this in right here. And as you can see, this cord will never, it's not a suicide cord. This is just a regular 4-prong 30 amp extension cord. And that will match up to our inlet box here. So we'll do the same thing, just making note of which one has this little right angle. Just pop that in, turn it, and that is it. So everything is set up here and ready for power. So for me, I'm gonna turn off my generator power first, or excuse me, my solar power, and now our main, signifying that there is a power outage. Next, we're gonna slide this up and turn this on, which will allow power to then feed in as soon as we turn our power station on. So now, as you can see, we can't turn this on, just physically won't allow us to, and that's the purpose of the interlock kit. All right, so we're gonna power this guy on. Should have 100% here. Next, we're gonna press the AC power button, and that's going to energize this. I just heard everything inside turn on and some stuff beeping. So right now we're outputting 750 watts. And if we go inside, as you can see, our lights are on. Everything powers up. And in here you can see all of my garage lights are on. Okay, so our Jackery is now powering the home. This has 720 watts actively being pulled. This says that this will run for 6.3 hours. Right now the weather is pretty nice, so we're not really running our furnace or the AC. But if this was in an emergency situation, we would just be running the furnace in a minimal amount. If it was during the summer months, we probably wouldn't be running AC on this. But I do want to do a test and see if this will run our inverter AC. It's a Mr. Cool ceiling cassette system, 21 SEER, super high efficiency. So I'm going to test that as well as our dryer and see if this trips the breaker or if it will power it. So first of all, I'm going to try our ACs. So we're going to bump this into the cool mode here. Bump it down to 65. There we go. And we'll do the same with this one here. See what we're drawing here. Let's see. Looks like we're pulling 1900, 2000 watts, 21. So I think 24 is probably what we're gonna spike to. And if we look up on our roof, we can see that Mr. Cool unit is running, fan is spinning. I can't hardly hear anything at all other than the fan. That's how quiet these units are. So we're still holding at 2460. And let's see what we got at our vents. Blasting super cold air. Awesome. That's way cool. Got both units running here. Nice and cold. Well, really stoked that this is able to run my AC with no special equipment required. This is the same exact system as if it was running off the grid. As you can see, it wouldn't run for a long time, but it would do it for, you know, if we wanted to cool one room temporarily, run it for maybe 30 minutes and cool that space, we could totally do it with the Jackery 5000. So now that our AC is off, we bumped back down to 625 watts, 6.8 hours of runtime. And this number will vary just depending on how much is being used at the time. See how it just jumped up to 7.3. So this will vary a little bit. Okay, next we're gonna try the dryer. Last time I tried this, it definitely popped and it wouldn't do it. So we're gonna see what it does. Wow. I'm impressed. 6,300 watts. Holy cow. So it's spiked up. It probably spiked up to close to 7,000. We're pulling 6,000 watts. It says it'll run it for about an hour, which is impressive in itself. I wouldn't really be running the dryer in an emergency situation, but it's really cool to know that this will run it. Next, I'm gonna try out my Mr. Cool garage AC. I'm curious what it pulls in comparison to my other system. This one is quite a bit smaller. So we're gonna put it over to cooling mode, 65 degrees, and we'll give that a minute to turn on here. Okay, our mini split in the garage is ramping up right now. We're at 850 watts. You can see that slow start. It doesn't spike, it slowly ramps up, which is a really nice feature of that Mr. Cool inverter system. Okay, so about 1,400 watts with this Mr. Cool unit running over here. So a little bit lower than it was with our main system. Granted, this is only 18,000 BTU, but we're spitting out nice cold air here from our unit. And it said it would be able to do that for about 4 hours, which is quite impressive. And here's our good old Mr. Cool unit. That line is ice cold, spitting out tons of heat out here on the discharge side. And this has been such a good unit. We've had this for a couple years now. The DIY line set has been awesome. 0 leaks, 0 problems with this thing from the very start. I've been super happy with it, and it's done really good. Okay, we turned off our mini split in the garage. We're hovering at about 650. That's kind of our baseline with our lights that are currently running and everything. Next, I want to turn on the furnace and see what that pulls. So if we go over to heat, bump this up to 76. I'm gonna see how much this pulls. Okay, so our furnace is turning on. The igniter is heating up right now. And we should have ignition in just a second. There we go. So give that fan a second to turn on. And we'll see what we got. Okay, so our furnace is on. As far as I can tell, the blower was already on because our humidifier runs the fan and it emits steam throughout the day. So I think my fan was already running. So this is with the gas furnace on. We're pulling less than 800 watts. So in the winter months, when we're running this minimally, we could really run this for a long time and keep our home nice and warm at a reasonable temperature. And as you can see, this whole process is just so easy. We just plug it in right here, flip the main off and this one on, and we're back in business. So super easy to do and highly recommend it. All right, so I was curious to see what difference this would make, and I love the design of these panels. You can just set them up either flat. The sun is facing way over there, so I just put them up vertically and they just stand up by themselves, which I love. And I've got our cord strung out here, and currently we're sitting at 550 watts without the furnace or anything running. And I'm curious to see how this will change what we're reading here. So 7.1 hours of runtime with 0 input. Plug this in. Wow. So this is now showing we can run this for, this increased it by 4 hours from 7 to 11. That's pretty epic. And in addition to that, we can plug in another one in series with this, or we can just, we have another one of these that's basically identical to this. We could plug it in and plug it into this other one here and increase that number. In addition, we can have a real solar setup right here, and that will significantly increase the amount of runtime we can expect out of this power station. But super pleased with the solar input there. All right, guys, well, that gives you a rough idea of what items you can run with the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus. This is a truly impressive machine. So now we're gonna show you in reverse how to turn off our power station. So first of all, you wanna make sure that nothing is running like your gas furnace. Just make sure you power that off and let it automatically cycle through. Then we're going to turn off our generator power. This will slide down and now we can restore grid power. Just like that. So this thing is super effective for 20 bucks. It is well worth the money. Now we can turn on any circuits that we want powered with the grid. Easy as that. So now that even though anything is plugged up to this point, it doesn't matter because it's getting power up to the breaker, but the breaker is turned off. So now we can simply unplug this and store it back wherever we had it, and we're ready to go for the next power outage. Well, guys, I'm so pleased with this power station, given the specs, the massive amount of power that this has, and the ease of being able to get that power to my home. It is truly a game changer, and it gives me peace of mind knowing that I have that backup in case of a power outage. Make sure and check out the link in the video description where you can find the best deals for the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus. Now, if you want to see how we installed this power inlet box and this interlock kit, simply allowing us to get power to the whole home, you can find that video right here, and I'm sure you'll find that one informative as well. Until next time, you guys be safe. Later.